Show! With me, Joe! This is the show where I read an article a day to keep my stupid away. You learn something, I learn something, we grow together. Oh, it's quickly becoming more of a mixed bag than an article show. But that being said, today, again, not a mix. Today, we don't have an article. I'm actually going to go over an interaction I had on Twitter. Today, I'm going to go over an interaction that I had on Twitter. On Twitter. Why do I keep saying Twitter? Today, I'm actually going to go over an interaction I had recently on Twitter, which involved a new piece of technology, a hypothetical piece of technology that some people were having weird reactions over. So let's head over to Twitter and see what happened. This right here is the original post. It's from Yashar Ali. Apparently he's a New York Magazine and HuffPost contributor, so he's a writer. And he posted this video that said absolutely not. I've already commented on this guy's opinions a couple times. I'm not into Twitter, but more recently I've been commenting on people's opinions, and I don't know why. So here's the video. Let's see what it is. Just from the thumbnail, you kind of don't know what's going on. So since this video doesn't have any voiceover, I'm going to narrate it. So we see here this thing sitting in someone's house. This concept incubator grows babies at home. It's designed to replace the womb and pregnancy. So I guess you can grow a baby in your living room. The see-through pod sits in your living room. Yep, there we go, while he's working at his computer. Parents would be able to live their lives normally. You can see a woman at work. They can watch the fetus grow in the pod. Okay, it's a little weird. Don't know why that's a point. It has a dock to insert food. That makes sense because the umbilical cord feeds the baby inside of a woman. There's a microphone to speak to the fetus. I guess because just talking to the pod isn't enough. The product is just an idea at this stage. It was thought up by students at the product design in Arnhem. So is it possible? Is the question. Yes, sort of, they say. Healthy lambs have been delivered from a biobag. As you can see here, there's a lamb in a bag. It looks very altered carbon, if I'm going to be honest. The biobags have never been tested with humans, which would be altered carbon. If you haven't, but the technology is advancing, so it's only a matter of time before we have human fetuses grown in biobags. I don't know. Pods like this could replace surrogacy in the future. So that's what this video was. This person said absolutely not to this. And I was just, why absolutely not? Why do you have such a strong reaction to this? What are the pros and cons for this type of thing? Because he was clearly just seeing cons, but he wasn't thinking of pros, right? It's a weird thing. And if you haven't seen Altered Carbon, going back to that, it's a science fiction show where you can swap out your body and the bodies are grown actually in biobags. They like cut them open and they flop out. At least from what I remember. Also in the Matrix, people kind of were holding stasis, but it's kind of I don't know, it's a different thing. So anyways, he said absolutely not. And I saw this, so I retweeted and said, I don't have the vernacular to describe how weird this is or describe my feelings on the matter, but it does open so many questions around the literal human farming versus empowering a barren couple. What is clear is that someone has been watching too much Altered Carbon. Once I started digging into this video as well, I found out that it actually came out in 2017. So this is 3 years later, almost 3.5 years later from when this concept first came out. And I don't think this was funded. From what I could tell, this was not funded. There was no investors in this. It was just a product that was designed by somebody at a product design school. And then that was it. And then another day later, I saw another person tweeting this, whose name is Dylan Tweeney, and his tweet was again a retweet with a comment, and he said this is terrifying and sad. Now I don't remember why I started following Dylan Tweeney in the first place. I don't remember. I think he might have something to do with the game industry. And so I actually replied and said, why, quote, terrifying and additionally sad? He responded, The Matrix terrifying. Okay, is The Matrix terrifying? I mean, I guess there's a element of The Matrix that is weird and terrifying, where robots have taken over the world and are using people as literal batteries, and so they're farming people for batteries. But this is not even close to that, and nor is this suggesting that we're going to be turned into batteries. It's just an external womb, which we already kind of have and used apparently for other animals, like look at the lamb. So I don't see how the Matrix comparison really works here. The baby isn't being harvested for energy, and at the moment, it doesn't seem like it's being harvested for organs or anything. And so I think the Matrix is kind of a little bit of an exaggerated comparison. Maybe if he would have said altered carbon terrifying, cool, I'm down with that comparison. But Matrix is clearly an extreme example of science fiction. And then he said something about techies fundamentally misunderstanding the nature of gestation, birth, and embodied life. Sad. I can understand there are Luddites that don't like tech and are scared of tech, which is fine. I don't think Dylan is one of those people. But nothing in this project suggested to me that there was a misunderstanding of the nature of gestation, birth, and embodiment of life. And the reason that I don't think there's a misunderstanding here is, one, because it was a conceptual design. So they weren't trying to actually say, this is the way that the future should go. They were just saying, hey, this is a concept we thought of, perhaps to allow parents who can't have babies to have babies in a different way, or empower a hospital to quote unquote grow a baby if there's a complication with a pregnancy. You know, it could be an alternative. It doesn't have to be in our living room. It was just the way that they presented it, which is still, I agree, weird. Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's right, but it sure is weird. So I responded with 2 tweets, and I said, considering this was a student concept from 3 years ago and not a real funded business, from what I can tell, blaming techies seems a bit over the top. However, having an open discussion around it is not silly. As such, I'm curious who would be qualified to have a fundamental understanding of nature and birth. I'm positive it isn't us as 2 men, that is for sure, which I agree with myself on. I mean, this was only a couple days ago, but I don't think really men can possibly have a fundamental understanding in the concept of birth and gestation, because we don't do that. We provide the seed, yeah, and the fertilization of the egg, but we're not actually growing the baby inside of us. So if a woman thought of this, or if a woman wants to comment on it, I'm more than happy to have her tell me about the fundamentals of birth and gestation. With that being said, I can see, again, from an outside perspective, if I'm going to play devil's advocate here, I can see how this could be used for something like human farming. Maybe growing kids to harvest their organs and then putting them into slavery, or, you know, sex trafficking, or a whole variety of things. Though, with that in mind, it also still takes 9 months for a baby to grow into a baby. And it also takes time for that baby to then become a kid, young adult. So this isn't like a fast track to human farming or a fast track to organ growing. There's actually faster ways to do that for us in the laboratory. So for me, this technology, it's weird, it's interesting, but I don't see it as a negative thing. And in fact, I see it as a net positive for couples who maybe are barren or can't, a female who can't actually give birth, you know, renting her this incubator for 9 months to grow a baby at home. Okay, if her and her husband or the donor or whatever think that that's the way that this person can have a kid, like, who are we to say that this is not all right for them to do? I don't think anyone would buy it, because then, like, after 9 months, it's just going to sit there in the corner, and then like a vacuum cleaner, which is a weird thing to think about. I think it would be more like a rental thing, or even hospitals having them so that the baby can be watched over a period of time. But regardless, it's a weird concept. I think it's really interesting. It does open discussions into human farming and what is gestation and birth, and again, I'm not one to comment on it. I would love to have a female comment on this who has actually had a kid, because I'm sure that they have some opinions on it. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @CannoliNatoli. That was it. It was just this weird birth inside of your living room concept thing where I had a little back and forth, and I just wanted to comment and put it out there on the Joe Show. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Otherwise, you can send stuff to hijoeshow@gmail.com, articles or even tweets, whatever. And otherwise, this has been the Joe Show. I love you.